Welcome back to Midas Letter RAW. It is Friday, and so being Friday, we're going to do something a little bit differently. I have as my opening co-host today, Mr. Humble Howard Glassman, famed half of Humble and Fred in the morning, Humble and Fred in the afternoon, Humble and Fred at night. One of the longest lasting syndicated radio duos in Canadian history, I would say.
Did you almost call me a half-wit? Because I think you...
Whoa, stop!
I just want you to know, I didn't know I was going to do the show. I haven't shaved. I got my Christmas sweater on. I'm happy and excited to be here with you, sir. What a wonderful... this is freaking me out, too. I don't want to see myself.
Don't look. The trick is not to look. Howard, you're doing a performance on Sunday night at Yuk Yuk's. Tell us about that.
Well, I will, gentle person. It's called Kosher Kush. And it's all about the world of weed and Hebrews. Oh. It's a, can you imagine the Hebrews are we're starting to get into comedy now. Oh yeah, it's a new thing.
I'd say it's a tribal affair.
So it's a pretty cool show. It's headlined by a very funny Jewish comedian named Ian Sirota and myself. I'm hosting it. And all the comics are going to be talking about joints and Jews.
Wow.
And we invite everyone to come and see it.
I have a friend down in California who makes marijuana juice out of cannabis, and so it's about juice making in cannabis?
No, Hebrews, young man.
Oh, Hebrews.
It's about juice making, yes. It's about the Jews, my friend.
The Jews.
It's the Jews.
Oh, the Jews.
I'm going to begin the evening by singing Havana marijuana, Havana joint. That type of thing, and then we're going to take it from there.
Oh my God, that is awesome! I'm going to come and see you.
It is funny, and although I screwed the joke up, Ed, that's not the joke, but it's something like that. Anyhow, I'm really excited to be back on the Midas Letter because when we got together in October, I had no idea who you were or what this was, and having now seen it and watched it, I get a sense that you're really filling a void because there's not anything like this when it comes to the world of marijuana content dissemination. It's amazing. I wanted to say thank you for having me back.
Howard, it is our pleasure, and I think we're going to be seeing a little bit more of you than we have. This is your second time on our
my second
illustrious platform, but the thing we have in common that has drawn us together, correct me if I'm mistaken, is in fact the consumption of cannabinoids on a regular basis.
I'm definitely somebody that has availed themselves of the magic that is marijuana.
Are you high right now?
I am not high right now.
Oh, so this is you normal.
This is as normal as it gets for me.
See you high.
This is not. It's funny. I do and like it. It's funny. There's a whole revolution. I think I mentioned this last time that a lot of people in our age group, 45, 55, 65, they think marijuana is about getting high. And in actual fact, as you know, that it's really not. It's about a different sensation. It's about maybe, there's a whole world of marijuana efficacy that has nothing to do with getting high. That's helped people through all kinds of... One of my clients is a company called Strain Print, and I'm happy to plug them because what it is if you have a symptom, whether it's as severe as maybe Parkinson's or just a regular daily anxiety, there's a strain that you can find to help you in your journey.
And who's the CEO of Strain Print?
This is a great question.
Okay, because he was here 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember his name. Though he's got a great set of guitars, and we're going to jam together. That's what I remember. Guitar is not my main instrument. I can play a few songs.
What is your instrument that you're going to be jamming?
Piano, mostly. Okay. Keyboards and vocals is my main thing.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, Strain Print would be an example of a way to look at the world of cannabis rather than just people that did it in the 70s when they were in college. They just think of it as, oh, I'm going to go get a buzz on. It's not. It's all about managing anxiety and managing symptoms and sleeping better and insomnia. And that's why I am happy to say I'm a regular user. Excellent. Although I think doing this show high would be kind of fun.
We're going to have Andrew Muroff from Strain Print back on the show because his actual presentation was great. The problem with that company was he's private, and so there's really no opportunity for investors, which is what we're all about here.
Right.
Howard, we're going to leave it there for now. I want everybody who wants to come and join Howard and watch his show
Kosher Kush.
Kosher Kush at Yuk Yuk's on Sunday night at 8 o'clock in downtown Toronto. Now, I'm going to talk to you about what's coming up today before Nurse Ricky Gerwitz comes in and reads the news, and Edward Milewski joins us in his regular position as my favorite co-host on the planet. Meanwhile, here's what's coming up. Deepak Anand is going to be here, cannabis industry expert, former with Cannabis Compliance. He's helped probably more companies attain cannabis licensing than anybody else in the world. 3:30, Jesse McConnell is going to be here, CEO of Rubicon Organics, and this will be the first time we are hearing from him. It's CSE traded, I know that. Then at 3:45, or actually, sorry, 4:05, the man of the hour, Cam Battley, is going to be here. He's going to outline exactly what the finer details are of that convertible note that they released yesterday in the news, what it means to the dilution of the shareholders. And then at 4:20, Best Buds, our 5 top strains of the week from the lovely people at 4 East Media. And then, like we do every Friday at 4:28, stay tuned for our bloopers. But now, right now, here's Ricky Gerwitz, news nurse Ricky Gerwitz.
He's having a stroke.
What the news?
Thanks, James, and here are the headlines moving markets today. Aurora Cannabis Inc. announced that it has priced its previously announced offering of convertible senior notes due 2024. The company will issue $300 million aggregate principal amount of notes, or $345 million aggregate principal amount, if the initial purchases over allotment option is exercised in full. The notes will be issued at par value. Aurora expects to use the net proceeds from the offering to support its Canadian and international expansion initiatives for future acquisitions and for general corporate purposes, including working capital requirements to continue the company's growth. And Aurora COO Cam Battley will be joining James later on the show. HempCo Food Fibre Inc. announced it has completed an agreement with Aurora Cannabis Inc. for a non-brokered private placement of a $5 million Canadian non-transferable secured convertible debenture. As previously disclosed on December 21, 2018, the company has drawn $3 million Canadian against the $5 million loan for general corporate purposes. Aurora currently holds a 52% interest in HempCo and, if fully converted, excluding interest, would hold 55% of HempCo's outstanding shares. The agreement provides HempCo with access to additional funds to accelerate execution of their 5-pronged growth strategy, which includes the development of new markets, the introduction of new product innovations, as well as capitalizing on global tri-crop opportunities. Aphria Inc. has recently entered into an exclusive agreement with Toronto-based UNOapp Inc. to collaborate on the development of technology and analytic solutions for Canada's adult-use cannabis industry. Founded in 2010, UNOapp has developed technology, marketing, and analytical solutions that allow users across the globe to engage with their customers to drive revenue. Aleafia Health Inc. announced its global expansion with the closing of its previously announced investment in CannaPacific Pty Limited, a federally licensed Australian medical cannabis company located in New South Wales. CannaPacific is licensed by the Office of Drug Control of Australia to cultivate medical cannabis and to research medical cannabis. Weekend Unlimited announced the recent acquisition VBC Brands under the Champ Energy brand will sponsor the legendary Hollywood West All-Star Pre-Party. The high-profile player, celebrity, VIP, and executive event is also sponsored by Ticketmaster, Origin House, and the Fourth Period magazine. As a lifestyle brand, Weekend Unlimited focuses on athletes and active people as an audience, and are actively pursuing relationships with tastemakers in the sports world. In this sector, athletes and trainers are expressing strong interest in the role CBD can play in replacing opioids for pain management, inflammation, and recovery. Cannabis Growth Opportunity Corporation has announced the company's updated net asset value per common share of $2.77 at the close of business on January 15, 2019. This represents a growth of 20% since their initial public offering on January 26, 2018. CGOC is now approximately 94% invested in companies operating in Canada, the US, Jamaica, and Israel. And that's your news for today.
A little quiet in the news front in cannabis world. What do you say, Edward?
You know, I'm looking at the chart of weed as a sort of a bellwether indicator. It had a run, it pulled back sharply, and now it's gone back and it's testing it. But it quite often the first move is like a V, upside down V. The second move is a bit of a rounding thing because it can't get through.
A rounding error?
If it fails the weed, then they will have a nice pullback, which will be good for investors because, look at Canopy Growth going by the screen here, 57, 55. It was almost at 60. Yeah, I'm thinking, and another big day on the S&P. I think there's some. We got to look at all the things, right? You can't look at just the things you want to look at.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking. I'll be looking at the charts tonight.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to look at some charts in a short while here. So, Aurora Cannabis, Cam Battley is going to be here shortly. Came out with the details
nice guy.
on that.
He's such a.
He's a very nice guy. They came out with the details of that convertible note, which apparently it's a 5.25% convertible note. The conversion only occurs with a 10% premium at the discretion solely of Aurora. So in 2024, when this note matures, they have the option of paying cash plus 10%.
So what's 5.25%? Is it 5.25%?
5.25%.
I wonder how they came out with that number.
Well, it's got to be some kind of triangulation off of prime.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you just think, well, 5 is a nice round number, 5.25 not so round,
Well, 5, yeah, but you can't have an even number when it's an interest rate because that just seems too easy.
Okay, so what's 5.25%? Is it $250,000?
I hope you're not going to ask me to do math, Ed, because
I
don't
got it. So 5% of a million or 100 million is 5 million. So 5 million times 2.5 is $12.5 million interest a year plus a quarter of that. So we're talking about $14 million a year in interest. Chicken shit.
For $250 million war chest, that is dirt cheap.
Can you imagine the parties they're going to have with that money?
I don't think that's what the money's for, Edward. It's U.S. dollars, and they are U.S. dollars. This is the thing.
U.S. dollars.
U.S. dollar. Why would they want a $250 million U.S. dollars unless they had something big in mind? This is speculation on my part.
U.S. investor.
U.S. investors.
Do you think they convert it and back and forth, and if you can keep converting it back and forth, you end up with nothing, eh?
Well, that's a good point, Ed.
So, but so they probably have a U.S. account.
Pretty sure that's not what the plan is.
You think they got a U.S. account?
I'm going to take a wild guess and bet you that they've got a U.S. dollar account. And furthermore,
if they don't,
you're going to open one for them, aren't you?
You can earn some real points by telling them to get one.
We're going to do some arbitrage with our banking.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a risk of that. Anyways, my takeaway from what I saw in the press release this morning is that this is essentially a non-dilutive financing. It dilutes slightly on the balance sheet at the rate of $14 million per year, but the opportunity cost that is diminished and the cost of capital at 5.25% for the company and the shareholders with no risk of dilution in the future unless they can't pay back the $250 million is minimal. So I, for one, am very happy with the transaction. Full disclosure, Aurora is a client of our media division, and I buy my way in and out of the stock and trade it like a drunken sailor, just because I am a drunken sailor.
Because you're...
Say what, sailor? No, I'm not that kind of sailor. Oh, yes, I am. Anyways,
well, that's... so are you along the stock right now?
No, not right now.
But you're looking to make an entry, aren't you?
No, I'm not right now. No, because
if
like
it dropped $3, would you buy some? Well,
I try not to trade in and out of the stock when I'm actually doing client functions for them, like developing and marketing video, because that represents too much of an actual direct conflict. So I try to only trade it when they're not active as a client, which is now very rare. But yeah, no, I think here's the thing: Aurora's moves are starting to make more and more sense. It looked a little slapdash at the first, like a buy everything strategy. It's starting to take a form and a shape and a direction, and most importantly, an inertia that is the greatest sign of an imminent 10-bagger. And for a stock that's at $8, that's a big statement.
Are you suggesting $80 is in the...
Well, let's say, okay, if Aurora was... No, I'm not saying it's going to $80, but if Aurora was at $80, that would be 10x the current price, then some.
Okay.
But so... what would that imply in terms of earnings?
What would that imply in terms of market cap?
Right. There are more mathematics.
Okay, so 10 times, it's capped at what, about 8 billion right now, 9 billion?
Yeah. Do you have a calculator?
Yeah, I got one in my head.
Do you have a razor?
You know what? I had an operation last week where they took a calculator and they put it in my head.
Really? Yeah. That's almost as funny as your agriculture joke this morning. You know, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah,
so, you know, like, you made an interesting comment. I'm trying to figure out where you're going with it.
Because I came in and I said...
No, it's about the grass.
Yeah, I said I was eating some grass. You said, are you eating grass?
It says you had grass in your
teeth. And I said, well, you know, isn't it interesting that cows, basically, that's all they eat.
Yeah.
And they look like a cow.
Right.
And geese, that's what they eat. And they look like geese. But aren't you... What happened to, you know, you are what you eat?
So what, you're saying geese...
They should have green feathers and green milk, I would think.
Well, so what you're saying is geese and cows should look pretty much the same since they both eat grass?
Yeah. Well, maybe not. Maybe you know, maybe I'll go back to med school or something, or I'll go to science class. But you know what I mean, eh? Like, think about it.
Yeah, sure, yeah. We're going to do our best to connect with Deepak Anand via Skype right now in Vancouver, aren't we, guys? God?
See?
Oh, all right, then let's wait a minute then, shall we?
And you know, Kronos is over $20.
Again? As per?
I mean, I got to tell you, when you saw that stupid report from that and I was
No, let's not refer to Andrew Left and Citron Research as stupid. Those guys have made a lot of money.
You're right. But you know, when I read the report, I thought to myself, my God, this is an opportunity to print money by shorting Kronos. You'd have got summarily destroyed.
Here's the thing. If he was like, you know, if Morgan Stanley came out with such a worded report saying this stock is worth nothing, it would go way lower than what it does if Andrew Left does. Why? Because Morgan Stanley, in the first place, is not primarily a shorter, though I'm sure they do have some hedge fund units. But they don't publish research that is that negative. It's more nuanced. It's more buy side, sell side conscious for obvious reasons. But so that's the thing. You know, whenever you see one of these short reports, you got to first ask yourself, how much stroke do these guys? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Anyways, in the case of the Heidelberg, Instaberg, Cronenberg research piece, Hamburg,
hot dog,
Burgergler. They were able to take down the price of Aphria to 4 and change. So if they actually covered on that, they probably did all right, drove on, and then were actually participants on a conference call and said we're going to drive on to other greener.
But also think of the innocent investor who's watching this thing and he's got money in there at Aphria, for instance, and the thing gets, and you know, like the funny thing about the market is the movement sometimes determines your action. Well, it does in a lot of cases. So stock gets hammered. So I'm getting out of this thing. I don't want to lose all my money. Now they're out, and the stock's doubled. I mean, it's sad. It's not sad. It's merciless. It's mercenary.
Mercenary. Well, mercenary is in many respects the essence of half the market. The mercenary opportunistic predator versus the long-term buy and hold guy who you try to shake out of a position at the wrong time and buy it for a flip. You know, the scary thing to me is if I look at the last 30 years in the market, and the buy and hold investor is heading for what looks like extinction, and the opportunistic short-term trader is looking like a cancer.
I like your the fellow's name that wrote in the Globe that you went to see. He says this is a market not to own, it's to rent.
Right, that's good. David Rosenberg said that. Ed, I'm going to interrupt you there because now we're going to be joined by Deepak Anand live via Skype from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Should I move?
No, you can stay there. He's via Skype. Hey, Deepak, how are you?
Hey, James. How are you?
Great, thanks. I hear you've been traveling the world, helping people obtain cannabis nirvana on a legitimate basis.
One country at a time, James.
Awesome. So tell us about what's going on in the world. Give us a sense of the pace of deprohibition in countries that we're probably not following so closely as Canada and the U.S.
Yeah, I just got back from Thailand and from India, James, and there's certainly a lot happening in those two countries. India is starting to issue some cultivation licenses for sort of all purposes, R&D, exports, domestic cultivation, and there's certainly some very good opportunities in that country, particularly on the product formulation side. And then Thailand, as most people may be aware, recently looking at legislating cultivation in Thailand, including granting licenses to be able to grow cannabis there for medical purposes. So definitely, the Asian markets seem to be really heating up. We're seeing a few licensed producers get into those markets, but none of the big guys yet in there. We're starting to see Bedrock out of the Netherlands make a lot of moves early on into those markets. So that's something I'm watching very closely.
Sure, you bet. Have you heard anything coming out of China? And the reason I ask this is because at some point I'm expecting to see a press release that says XYZ Corp partners with China XYZ Corp to create the first billion square foot marijuana grow operation with an average cost of production of 2 cents a gram or something like that. Is there any sign of broad deprohibition in China? I know it's sort of selectively legal, some of the CBD products in areas of China.
Yeah, nothing broadly in terms of a federal perspective in China. There's certainly a lot of CBD isolate coming out of China, a lot of manufacturers in China, sort of exporting CBD, particularly CBD isolate to countries like the UK. There's a number of CBD manufacturers that have licenses to be able to import those products in from China, but nothing sort of on the scale that we're seeing in Thailand or in India at the moment. Japan, on the other hand, importing a lot of CBD products into that country, both for humans as well as for animals. So we're certainly, looking at that market for imports. And the obvious sort of country that they're looking at is the U.S., particularly given the Farm Bill now and all the changes that the Farm Bill's got involved with CBD.
Huh, interesting. So let's come back to Canada for a bit because, you guys, you were formerly with Canada Compliance that was very much involved with helping companies obtain licensing in the medical side. And we just had this lottery that occurred here in Ontario where we saw 25 winners of, a license to operate a retail location, but with some peculiar restrictions and limitations that, call into question the viability of this strategy. What is your take on the lottery process that was used to award these 25 licenses in Ontario?
Yeah, I mean, the process itself clearly has a number of limitations in terms of the way it was sort of rolled out. I mean, the challenge is, a lot of people didn't get into this thinking that there was going to be these many restrictions in terms of restrictive covenants on transfer of licenses, on the ability to be able to partner up with some of these winners and start to sell products. So certainly a number of restrictions from that perspective in terms of those licenses, being transferred. And now what we're seeing is the AGCO is going to very aggressively start to sort of enforce transferability of licenses. So, that's a limitation that people weren't expecting. And a number of winners that have won this have actually never really run businesses ever. So for them to understand what the AGCO wants, in addition to transferring these licenses and getting businesses set up is proving quite challenging in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if I was a betting man, I would say that 25 new licenses is not going to necessarily result in 25 new stores in Ontario. It's going to result in maybe 5 stores and 20 bankruptcies.
Absolutely. The AGCO also has a number of restrictive sort of things where if you're not able to run a store or get it up and running, there's severe penalties for people that have won these licenses and are unable to actually demonstrate. So we're certainly going to see a number of challenges in Ontario with the way that this lottery process has been sort of unfolding. Nonetheless, there's been a lot of interest with the winners. There's been all kinds of bidding wars taking place. I think the numbers that we're seeing being offered to some of these winners are absolutely, insane. I think in many cases, people haven't figured sort of into the fact that you really can't transfer some of these licenses. So despite what the business model looks like, and despite that you may want to offer millions of dollars in many cases to these winners, there's really not much that can be done. So I certainly think there's going to be a number of challenges with this model. And you're right, there's definitely going to be some bankruptcies as well.
Sure. Now, one of the other aspects of supply that I'm curious to pick your brain about is the idea that we are allowed to grow 4 plants at home in all provinces except Quebec and Manitoba. And however, at least in Ontario, there is no seed or clone material available to propagate the foundation for your 4 plants. So I'm wondering, to what extent does the inavailability of simple seeds or clones sort of demonstrate that the government maybe isn't all that serious about making it easy for people to grow weed at home, and they're in fact trying to make it a lot more difficult than the law implies it is. Is that a overly cynical perspective from where you sit, or do you think that there is some validity to that sort of idea?
I mean, certainly a number of challenges with that, James. There's, you know, the federal process allows for provinces to sort of, you know, buy seeds and clones and also sell them to various licensing categories, including something that was recently launched called the nursery license category. But what we're seeing is, you know, the province of Ontario specifically is not really hasn't really sort of embarked on that and isn't making clones and seeds available. So there's clearly a lot of frustration amongst people that are looking to grow their own product at home. And on one side, you know, people are currently buying products through the medical channel, and what we're seeing is medical patients can actually give away some of their plants and seeds to others, and they would be able to obtain it that way. In addition to that, some licensed producers have dried product that's available through the Ontario retail channels that often come with seeds. And so if you basically get seeds from a licensed source, and if you were to find seeds in your dried bud, you could actually plant that legally and start to grow it, because that is technically a legal source. And we've seen a lot of posts on Reddit about this, and you know, we're seeing people grow it that way.
Sure. So does that mean that if I obtain seeds through the mail, and there's no way to know whether it's legitimate or licensed sourcing or not, does that mean that my 4 plants are illegal for me to grow?
Unless it was actually obtained from a legal source, it would be illegal. The problem becomes the police are going to have a very hard time enforcing sort of where that came from and trying to ascertain if it was a legal source or not. So there's a number of challenges there. But we've seen, you know, provinces like Newfoundland and Labrador. We've seen other provinces like Manitoba now start to make seeds and clones available. And I think that the Ontario government would be sort of prudent to start to look at, you know, sourcing of these materials and start to sell them at least through the online channel, which is the OCS at the moment.
You bet. So, Deepak, my understanding is that you've moved on from Canada compliance. What exactly are you up to now in the world?
Well, a number of things taking place, James. You know, some public companies being involved. I can't really say too much on that side, but we're definitely looking at the international markets. I'm looking at sort of supply deals. You know, everyone's very focused on cultivation at the moment. Nobody's paying as much attention on supply and distribution. I'm certainly looking at that very closely, particularly in the European and international markets.
Fascinating, Deepak. Well, really appreciate your input as usual. Very insightful. We'll have you back on soon. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, James.
Interesting, eh?
You know, it sounds like this guy's moving on into greener pastures.
Well, he's got his own
greener
sort of
pastures.
Greener pastures. Yes, I know. Things are starting to grow in the right direction for Deepak.
Yeah, good.
So, Ed, we were talking about some charts earlier. Tell me about the more interesting charts in the cannabis world today. What did you see that made your, let's just say, get excited a bit?
What did I see get me excited?
Yeah, you know, that gave you a little bit of, you know, a little bounce in your step, a little woody. Since we are on the conversation of
there's nobody sitting up here saying, you can't say that.
No. That's the great thing. Well, there's no CFTC in internet.
Let me,
no CFTC.
I like the action on Kronos. We alluded to it earlier.
Did you buy any?
No.
Did you sell any?
No.
Well, then who cares? No, I know. People who bought it do.
Yeah.
So what is driving Kronos higher today?
Well,
is there a news item?
People, I don't know. And again, being a technical guy, I don't really care. Like, well, I scan the news items once in a while, but I'm more interested in the action, like the daily action.
Action, Jackson.
I call that DA.
DA, daily action.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Should we add those initials to your title on the screen? Edward Milewski, DA.
Daily action.
Daily action. Actually, why don't we just change your name instead of Ed Milewski?
No,
it'll be
I
Daily
like Ed.
Action.
You know, Ed, because Ed, education, edibles, edge,
deed,
weed,
mead,
feed,
tweed,
seed.
Okay, I see where this is going. We could go On and on and on and on and on and on and on.
Ad infinitum.
Ad infinitum.
Oh, that's AAI.
Ad nauseum. Anyways.
Okay, so look at Aphria's up a couple pennies.
It is?
Daily.
Why?
Daily action. There you go.
Why is that under my face? I don't get it. There we go. That makes sense.
Okay. Ha ha ha.
It's Friday, so we're taking things a little bit less seriously during the rest of the week when we know we got 4 more days of the sanction to go through. Anyways, I wanted to quickly look at our audience and acknowledge some of the beautiful people. The beautiful people are joining us from all around the world in Midas Letter world. And, you know, I'm actually surprised. You know that a large part of our audience is from the southern United States? Texas, Alabama, Florida,
you know why?
California. Why? Because they smoke more dope down there?
I was hoping you'd tell me.
Richie Rich, forget Kronos. Look at BLVD, up 33%. So you called it yesterday. Wow, Richie Rich. You were, Jesus.
Hey,
what?
Where are you getting?
You're talking my book here.
Get that guy's address and send him some money.
I'm going to have to piece him off, aren't I? Yeah, well.
When did you hire him? When did you?
You know, I don't know if I've accumulated as much BLVD as I want to, but I did have reason to become a little bit more enamored of the company. I did buy more stock today.
Tell us why.
Well, I'll tell you why. Is because I had a conversation with management today who...
You did?
Yeah, and it's not...
Are they coming on the show?
They didn't really tell me anything new because, of course, they're only going to disclose to me what's already been released as news. He's going to come on the show when the time is right. This is a company in a state of reorganization. Really nothing's anticipated big to happen in the near term, but if you look at the people involved in this company, you know, these are people who do not do small opportunities. They're not looking for $50 million, $80 million exits.
Right.
These exits come with a lot more zeros. So that's why I'm buying it. It's pure speculation on my part. There is nothing material that has happened to justify buying it right now, but I just have a gut feeling about the people involved. And just
why are they doing this? In other words,
well, exactly. Why would I come from $1 billion enterprise and start working with a $60 million?
Is that the market cap? How many? There's the number of shares.
200 some odd million. I don't know.
Okay, so let's say it's capped 15 million, or 20 million.
Beg your pardon?
How come I'm not hearing any of this?
Because the thing's not in your ear.
It's not?
It's funny. It's got to...
What's this?
This has to be in your ear for you to hear. Oh, you're missing the little bit. Oh, no, you got the little bit.
What are you...
You got the little rubber in your ear, Ed. Anyways, enough of this.
Little rubber.
Enough of this useless Friday afternoon banter. Let's have a serious conversation with Jesse. And on
you don't have to get angry, okay? Like what? Jesus.
Jesse McConnell is joining us live via Skype from, I don't know where he's from right now, but he's the CEO and director of Rubicon Organics. Jesse, welcome to our humble show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm here to have a very, very serious conversation with you.
Excellent. Well, we shall observe that intent. Tell us, now I saw Rubicon Organics in the news, and your news was that you were going to supply some cannabis to some other LP, or were they supplying cannabis? I think you were supplying cannabis to somebody else. Is that correct?
Not on the Canadian side yet. We're still pending our application, still pending on the for a Canadian LP. Yeah. So we are doing an operation like that in California and Washington, but on the Canadian side, we're expecting our licensing in the near future, in the next, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We've been pending since August. Our video evidence was submitted in the middle of August.
Right. Okay. So I was interested to discover upon researching that your company was on the other side of this transaction. In the press release I read that you're a publicly traded company too, and that's why I wanted to get you on the show, because I'd not yet heard of your company or known what you're up to. Why don't you give us a big picture, 50,000-foot look at what Rubicon Organics is today and what it seeks to become in the next 12, 24 months?
Sure. Well, really, we're focused on super premium certified organic production. My history was co-founding Whistler Medical with Chris Pels, which recently had a nice exit into Aurora. And we've just taken that concept and tried to move that into larger scale. So, we think that the consumer, at least the consumer that we're going after, is the one who truly loves cannabis. You know, it's the volume consumer. It's the one who's transitioning from the black market into the normalized space. And our focus is on really important cannabinoid profiles, really nice terpenoid profiles, doing certified organic production at scale, and having those, frosty flowers and the things that people who love cannabis love to enjoy. And so our company is trying to do much like what Whistler has already done, that premium pricing, but do it with a lower cost base and be able to use the sun to drive that cost base down.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Rubicon Organics has how many shares outstanding?
We have about 36.9 million right now. I think fully diluted, we're a little over 40.
Wow.
What's the ticker?
The symbol is ROMJ on the CSE. So that explains it. That explains why you're the most sort of well-positioned new public company that I've never heard of. Tell me about your so the other thing that attracted me about Rubicon Organics when I looked at your website was this idea of the commitment to super premium organic only product. I personally try to buy, eat, drink as organically as I can for reasons that have nothing to do with nutrition. But what is the origin and foundation for your compelling logic that drove you towards organics?
Well, quite frankly, we started, I've been in the industry for almost 15 years, and we started in the space doing conventional production, which seemed to work quite fine. And then when we founded Whistler and started production there, we initially started actually as a conventional production facility. And then we were introduced to a fellow named Peter, who's the co-founder of Rubicon. And he brought his organic production system that he'd been developing over the last 4 or 5 years in large-scale tomato facilities. And when we put that in place, we just ended up with a much better product. I mean, so initially, this really wasn't done for pesticides or anything. It was really just done to produce the highest quality product we possibly could. And I didn't think we could do it on scale and at the cost base that we were able to achieve with organics, so we'd always just stayed away from it. And then after going through a few rounds of it and seeing the results, the characterizations for the flower were off the charts. We had terpenoid profiles that were testing in the 99th percentile. We just continued to refine that cultivation system and keep moving down that path, and the result has been an environmentally sustainable way to grow. We can reuse all of our soil. We build all of our own soil and all of our own fertilizers. And you end up with a product, so at the end of the day, this is a consumer product that's superior to the hydroponic product. So dumb and simple, it's super premium quality first, and organic is what we use to achieve that.
Wow, well that's great. I can't wait to try your product. Obviously I'm going to have to go to Washington or Oregon to do that in the near term, but soon in Canada.
Absolutely. We're more than happy to sell to you when we are legally able to do so.
Okay, great. All right, then Jesse, tell me a bit about how you're going to deal with, obviously the organic differentiator, the super premium differentiator, you've got a recognized history of successfully producing great cannabis as evidenced by the sale of Whistler to Aurora. But both Washington and Oregon are very different markets than was British Columbia, which has a different system altogether. Washington and Oregon are, at least the perception is among investors, that these are both highly oversupplied markets where there's a very much a commodity price competition that limits the profitability of growers that are thus forced to compete on commodity. Is that the reality you live in, or does your organic and super premium sort of separators sufficiently isolate you from having to compete as a commodity?
Well, I mean, I think that first of all, we're not in Oregon. We're in California and Washington, not Oregon. Oregon is an oversupplied market.
Right.
But quite frankly, Washington has some of those similarities too. But I think what's important to understand is that the pricing curve for cannabis bifurcates between commoditized product, which we see at much lower price points in extraction, and then on the premium side, the middle of the pricing curve, I don't think is where you really want to sit. And Washington's a great example of that. If you look at the retail marketplace there, and you look at the very high-end brands like Freddy's Fuego, Jungle Boys Exotics, or the Cookies line, these are products that are selling for $18 a gram retail. Now, on the price point side, you can see things as low as $5 and $7. But what that demonstrates really is there's a product for each one of those consumers. And one of the analogies I think of is, if you recall that lake of wine that happened in France a few years ago when the wine market became oversaturated with a ton of grape production. That didn't mean that the price of Napa Valley Cabernet suddenly plummeted. It meant that the commoditized side was driven down. But for people who are looking for that quality product, you're going to see price stabilization there in a different way.
Right. Interesting. So Rubicon Organics sells product in California and Washington, not Oregon and Washington.
That's correct.
Right. Thank you.
Close. They're border. I understand why you make that mistake.
Yes.
All on the West Coast, though.
Yeah, well, Canadians think,
all on the West Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
Canadians are under the impression that all the U.S. states are the same, and we don't really understand that they're different markets. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
It works both ways. Americans think the same thing, too. So
all the provinces are the same here, too, right?
That's right.
Parlez-vous français?
Parlez-vous. Okay, Jesse, tell you what are the big catalysts that are going to happen for Rubicon Organics in 2019 that are going to be representative of shareholder value that you're looking forward to?
Well, certainly the largest for us is going to be the licensing event in Canada, where our facilities, you call it a greenhouse, but it's more or less a indoor sun-supplemented growth chamber on 125,000 square feet, broken up into individual compartments so that we can really drive that premium quality. And we're expecting that licensing to happen. We were hopeful it'll happen over the Christmas break, but in the very, very near term. And on that basis, the facility is fully built out. We're continuing to refine and optimize areas of that facility, but we're going to be able to move into production very quickly there. And we're projecting some pretty attractive cash flows on that basis. So we'll be in full production by Q3 of this year. But we're also taking a normalized approach here. We're not doing, I think, what some others are doing, which are telling you about your productive capacity. Now, it does take a minute to ramp these up, to get your biomass going and to ensure you don't have any crop failures and to focus on quality. But you'll see Rubicon proving out its cost-based model by Q3 of this year in the Washington facility, and shortly thereafter in Canada. Those are going to be the biggest value catalyst for us.
Oh, that's fantastic. Jesse, I really appreciate you giving us an update on what Rubicon Organics is up to. I'm going to follow the story closely because I'm such a fan of organics. I can't wait to try the product. We'll come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me today.
All right, well, thanks a lot for having me on the show. I'm a big fan.
You bet. Thank you. All right, Edward, let's take a look at the chart now for Rubicon Organics.
It's right here. I got it. It's on my NDI.
All right. God is going to pull up the NDI.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Jesus Cristo. Make
Magic.
it so. Abracadabra.
Make it so.
You know what? I'm just thinking that your NDI isn't functioning. We would be hearing something
Either
about
that or
this.
they're sleeping in the control room.
Oh, look, there it is.
Oh, maybe I was right. Okay. So the question would have been like, was this a public company or was this a takeover?
I can't answer that because I haven't done any research on it. But why don't you tell me what date is that giant candle?
Okay, this is a 6-month chart. So that was back in October. Looks like about 10th.
Okay, so the stock came out at what?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. I mean, the high of the day that day was 520. The low of the day was 282.
Well,
525 to 282 in one day, and it's been,
Okay, so that was the date IPO. They obviously set too high a price on the IPO, which is a very common.
But we were entering that. We were going in October, and
it started frothy period. So everybody thought, who's not going to buy Rubicon Organics?
Yeah, but everything got smoked, eh? But
yeah, exactly.
And
that was that.
You notice not too many new deals are coming out lately. Really? Well, are there?
Yes, there's tons.
Okay, like I said, there's
tons,
lots of new deals coming out.
There are. That's a good point, Ed. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
There's. You know what? There's not a lot of is big overpriced, super voting share structures coming to the market because the last crop that did have not done so well relative to companies that come to market with a more democratic voting structure and come to market at a lower price. Look at Green Growth Brands versus Acreage Holdings, for example.
Yeah.
Look at Tilray versus MedMen.
Tilray, by the way, is down about $9 today.
Well, in the Tilray universe, that's a fart in the wind, Edward.
Well, not if you bought it yesterday.
Well, I mean,
like if you thought, let's say you bought 1,000 shares yesterday, 84,000 bucks.
Oh boy, your mathematics.
And you're sitting there and you're going, why would I buy it yesterday? Why didn't I wait till today? Because I would have saved 9,000 bucks. Now 9,000 bucks, you know.
Maybe you were lacking the requisite crystal ball to make that happen.
The requisite crystal ball.
The requisite crystal ball.
I want to put the chart of Kronos. That's intriguing.
Oh boy, boy. Does Mike Gorenstein know how enthusiastic you are about his company? Because he's going to be very pleased about that. You know, but you're talking technically, Ed. Now, what about the fundamentals? Damn it!
You know, I'm not that guy.
Okay,
don't talk to me about fundamentals.
I am going to Google right now. CEDAR and CEDAR, SEDAR.com, by the way, is where you go to find out what is happening with each of the companies in terms of regulatory filings if they're not in the U.S.
Can I just point out here something here on my?
No, you're going to.
Okay, so we actually, where's my pen? There it is. My magic pen. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. So we had a top here of around $20. That's when the deal happened. Remember the deal? The big deal?
Show it again. We didn't have the chart up when you were doing that.
Okay, and now we've breached it, but right now we're just below that. So we've got the makings of a top.
A double top. Is that what that's called?
Yeah, you know, the double top.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing.
I'm not saying it's a double top, it looks like
a news release since December 30, or actually since December 7th. Kronos hasn't put out a news release since December 7th. So whatever's happening in the accumulation of Kronos, it's only known to a select group of people. What the fundamental reason is to acquire this, and
refresh my memory. Was it Aphria? No. Aphria.
Aphria.
Put
Altria. Boy, oh boy.
You know what? I just had a moment where
Epiphany?
Epiphany. It's
spoken to the voice of God. Altria. Voices in your head, maybe.
Yeah.
Telling
voices in my head.
Voices in your head.
I didn't know. I had Aphria, and all of a sudden it came to me. Yeah. Altria. Quickly.
Makers of Marlboro cigarettes invested what? How much was it? 100 million? We do. See, we're not up on the facts.
You know, here's the problem. You know,
what's the problem?
It's like trying to remember everything. It's getting harder and harder to do.
Because you're so old and decrepit. I'm getting old and decrepit too. We're not getting.
You know what? You're going to
$2.4 billion strategic investment from Altria Group on December 7th. That was the last press release. Let me ask you, Edward, in your technical capacity, why is this stock advancing so strongly absent fundamental catalysts?
You know what?
Time's up. Oh well, you guys should read the CEDAR filings. It says 2.4 billion. That's the headline in the. You might be reading a U.S. headline because this is saying Canadian 2.4 billion.
This thing. Okay, back in in November was as low as $8.50.
Jesus.
$8.50.
So you'd be up like you're almost once it hits 24 bucks, you're up 3x.
Yeah.
So that 24 bucks is the 3x.
Not quite, but you know what? Give or take.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I don't like it when I see stocks appreciate for no fundamental reason because that tells me that somebody
knows something
in the
that you don't
marketplace
know.
Has access to information that is not public.
No, you're just pissed off because you don't have the information.
That's right, because I'd have bought the thing, but what's going on here? Somebody knows something, or, and I'm not saying that is what the case is here with Kronos, because the other thing is that somebody looked at that press release back on December 7th where 2.4 billion went into Altria, looked at the valuation of Kronos Group and said, this ain't right. The market is missing the boat on this because this is essentially 50% of what Canopy got from Constellation. Yeah. And so the question is Kronos Group at a 50% valuation of what Aurora, or rather of what Canopy is worth? And there's the question we would want to answer on a fundamental basis. What is the market cap?
You want to talk about volatility, like if you said.
See, this is what I just want to say a word to Connor in the grow room there. If in the future we're going to say things like, I want to know what the market cap of Kronos is relative to Canopy growth. on the Canadian symbols, but Cronos doesn't trade in Canada, so it have to be on the US symbol. So the symbol in America on weed is CGC. And the symbol on Cronos Group is CRON. Oh, actually, you know, it does trade in Canada. That's right. Anyways, future, awesome production. We're going to have that from the voice of God.
Let's
instead of us sitting here going
right now, where I'm sitting, I'd say this is the best performing marijuana stock on the planet right now.
On the planet?
Well,
on the planet.
Look, it's trading at the highest it's ever been.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's at
how many others are? How many others are?
That doesn't really. That has no implication for absolute performance, which, based on your statement, you would imply.
What do you mean it doesn't? I'm saying
it's
trading at its high. What else is trading at its?
Well, what if its high is only like $2?
Okay, I got it.
It's the marionette show. Ed and I are actually controlled by the hand of God. Ed is ventriloquing my discourse. And oh, look at Bobby Mullins is up back in the mix here. BLVD looking good. Many thanks for intro to this company, my Midas brothers. Shout out to you too, Bobby.
Boy.
Let's go have a beer soon at John and Son.
Let's do it.
Reefer AI Joint says, oh, Reefer AI Joint came and went before we could read it. Cuckoo69, what are your opinions on cannabis ETF? You're going to have to clarify that for us.
You're talking about the
HMJF or the MMJ? Well, there's the US ETF and the American ETF.
Yes.
We've had the operators of both in here.
Yes.
Steve Hawkins most recently is the operator of the Canadian ETF, the Horizons ETF, HMMJ, and the other gentleman whose name escapes me right now that we had in here is the manager or the operator of the US ETF. And we got to have him back.
Okay, can I just make a point here, because we just had the chart of Cronos up, and it's right at, it's within a snick of its all-time high.
All right,
it's right there. Here's the HMMJ. Thank you, Reefer Al.
Reefer Al Madness.
Here, look at this thing. This thing is not even near. That's another way to tell you that Cronos is really flying.
What? HMMJ is flying? Is that the HMMJ chart?
Yeah, this is HMMJ. So it got as high as $27.
Yeah.
It's now 18.
Yeah.
So it's 18, 9, 18, 27, 2/3 of its high.
Yeah.
And Cronos is at its high.
But if an ETF is ultimately supposed to be a selection of the best performers in the
representation,
space, right,
like a basket,
then it makes sense that this thing is slower to respond to broad market moves.
I'm saying
there's a process of accumulation.
All I'm saying here is that Cronos is performing like do you know what they say sometimes?
Like a hot damn.
Firing on all cylinders.
Woo! Going to the dance. Hot as Bucket the Ball. King of the road. Anyways, what do you want to talk about now, Edward? You know it's 3:45.
3:45. 3:45.
3:54. Well, we still got more yakking to do.
We got Jeremy.
Cameron, I just want to point out to all of our illustrious and lovely people that Cam Battley is going to be here at precisely 4:05, and we're going to discuss the nuances of that recently published convertible note.
Yeah, that. You know what? When a company gets a friend of mine, well, I'll mention his name because you know the gentleman.
Yes.
Just can't remember it right now. But him and his father were brokers in Vancouver. He calls you Jimmy. You call him Harry.
Oh, the Leachman.
Yeah, Harry.
Yes.
Harry says when a company puts money into till, a fair amount of money, it's really not non-dilutive, because cash is, if you don't have any cash, you can't do very much.
It's like having a penis without being able to get it up.
Aurora is now they got some stroke.
They got a bit of a rocket launcher.
Now, how many people put that, did you find out how many people put money into that 250? Like, was it a broad distribution financing, or was it?
Well, I don't know, but Cam's going to be here to tell us at 4:05.
Okay.
I'll ask him that. Tell you what, I'll ask him about what the investor mix is like.
Okay.
He'll tell me.
You do that.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
Don't stop me. I'm gonna. Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to our audience some more. The reason we like to talk to our audience is because we actually get a lot of good ideas from the audience. BLVD was not from the audience. BLVD was from a gentleman who is going to be joining us in April as another on-air talent. And the remarkable thing about this gentleman is that he's only 22 years old, but is probably one of the sharpest stock pickers I've ever met in my life. And he's turned down roles with some pretty big names on Bay Street and Wall Street to join our humble establishment.
Yeah, you know, there's some really sharp young people out here, and I got to tell you.
They talk fast, they do math, they're very intimidating. Very intimidating, Edward. They're going to put us out of work one day, you mark my words.
You know what they say, eh? The cemeteries are filled with people that can't be replaced.
Hey, you don't have to convince me, Ed. I don't even buy green bananas anymore. That was another joke I heard from this kid. It's amazing. Anyways, that's down the road.
Okay.
If you wanted to think about what is great about BLVD, this is the other thing that I can disclose because I've got to be fully disclosed.
Are you buying the stock?
I am the proud owner.
Or increasing your position?
I am increasing my position incrementally over time. It's me in the market on the bid. I like this company because this is a company.
Did you buy stock today?
This is a company with a profitable business of helping addicts recover from addiction. They've got a profitable business. Let me repeat that.
Okay,
they have a profitable business.
How profitable?
Well, never mind that. I can't tell you how profitable. I haven't done that deep a dive on the financials yet. But here's the thing. They're going to use cannabinoids to treat addiction over the incumbent treatment, which is methadone, which itself causes 1% of its users to OD because it is, in fact, another opiate.
So what if you get addicted to cannabinoids? Then what? Then what do you use?
You know, whether there is real physically addictive properties in cannabinoids is still up for debate.
I don't think there are.
Packaging in Canada warns that 1 in so many people will become addicted to cannabis. I've never met anybody addicted to cannabis physically. I've met a lot of people who certainly like the idea of getting high every day, but it's not like if you deprive them of cannabis, they become non-functional and doesn't change them in any way. So on a non-clinical data sort of perspective, anecdotally, I've never met a cannabis addict who you could say, if you don't give that guy cannabis, he's going to go the DTs and get all weird on us. Never heard of it.
What DTs? That's delirium tremens?
Detoxification. DTs is when during the process of detoxifying.
But that's what it stands for, right? Delirium tremens.
I thought it was detoxification.
No.
But is that what God is saying? Is God on your side again? Does that mean the devil's on my side?
Because I've had delirium tremens. No.
Fire in the mountain, round boys round. Devil's in the house of the rising sun. Oh boy, it's a good thing it's Friday. Are there drinks on the menu after this, Edward? I'm going cross-country skiing
I think
tomorrow because there's a blizzard coming.
When the market closes, we get through this week, I think we should pop a Negroni.
Oh boy, the only thing you like better than happy hour $5 drinks is free drinks at the office.
On the set.
Before we even leave this chair.
Yeah.
I know. Boy, whoever sent us those, who were those Negronis from again? It's, was it Dylan's? Dylan's, yes. So we had a case of Negronis was supplied to us that was pre-bottled Negronis from Dylan's, which is actually 2 Negronis in one, and let's just say you don't want to drink too many of those.
I only had 2 yesterday when I left here. I was.
But you weren't driving.
Well, only a few miles. No, I wasn't driving. No. Listen. You know, when I'm in Toronto, I am sans auto.
Exactly.
Sans auto.
Sans auto. That sounds like an East Indian automobile.
How come the market's not closing here, gentlemen? What's going on here?
Maybe they're keeping it open for a couple of extra minutes for you and me.
Ding dong bell.
Oh, there we go. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, I thought we had our new graphic coming up for the bell, but I guess not yet. That must be next week.
The little thing hanging down at the bottom there.
It's little chipolata. It's little slapper, cracker, backer, knacker. Over the shoulder boulder holder, Polsky old Gorky. There's that word again. Edward, I swear, your lower third from now on is going to say Edward Polsky O'Gorky Milewski. What do you say? Can we do that?
And you know what?
Graphics?
Just about
New lower third per head.
every jar of pickles says Polski Ogórki.
Look what happens if I reach in here. I can actually crush your head
do
just
it,
like
do it
that.
now.
Ah, darn it. They didn't like that in the control room.
No, you know what?
apparently.
Because they're getting throwback on that. They said, no, we don't want to crush his head.
No, we don't want to be.
Hey, wait a
okay,
minute.
what? This doesn't work for you.
Polski
Ogórki. There we go. Official. It's official, Edward. You are now Edward Polski Ogórki Milewski.
So that would be
Look at Chiron Life Sciences bucked up another 7 cents to $1.61. Starting to really break ground there.
EPOM.
That reminds me, we got to talk to, we got to get with Chiron. We got to go down to Bogota and shoot what they got growing out there in Duma. Duma. They have.
Where's the Duma? Do you know where the Duma is? Is that the
Russian
Parliament?
Congress
yeah, that's it.
in Moscow?
See, I like that in you.
So it's right at the end
by
of
the
St.
way,
Petersburg
nobody gets
Square.
the Antilles thing. Nobody, but you got it right away.
Antilles?
Yeah, you know.
Antilles lace, what a pretty face, with a ponytail hanging down.
Was that being recorded yesterday when you got that?
What?
Or was that just you and I talking?
Auntie Shelley?
Antilles.
Antilles. No, I don't think that we were doing that on Ed Air. I sincerely hope we weren't, because if we were, it was certainly a big waste of our viewers' time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that would be it. We should have little games, and then we tell a little clue every day and see how long it takes the world to figure it out.
Really? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change the schedule a bit, and the control room might hate me, but Cam Battley is going to be here in a couple minutes.
Okay.
But I want to, ahead of that, I want to run the. Beg your pardon, God? Oh, okay. Okay. Fantastic. Well, at the end of the day, let's see. What did we see? We saw Organigram closed at 634, up 13 cents. Quite a nice move for them. The Planet 13 guys up 4 cents to close at 208. I love it when my broker's calling me to tell me what actually transpired in the market for me right now today. I'd love to take that call and find out.
But you can't.
But I can't, because we're on the show.
Yeah.
And he's not watching the show.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'm going to smack him around.
Go into Cam.
All right, so I'm going to swing over to Studio 2. It looks just like this one. I'm going to talk to Cam Battley. Watch how fast I do this. Welcome back, everybody. As promised, in the house today, Cam Battley, CCO of Aurora Cannabis. Cam, welcome back.
Nice to see you.
Cam, the hot topic of the day is a $250 million convertible debenture that Aurora announced yesterday, and the terms were announced today. Walk us through it, please.
It's actually bigger than that now. It's been upsized. Yes, it's been upsized. So we're looking at $300 million US,
right?
With an over-allotment that would make it up to $345 million US, which would be on the order of 450 plus Canadian.
Why would Aurora be raising funds in US dollars right now?
Because we can.
I see.
This is important, and so this security is something that's available only to the top companies in the cannabis sector, and it's ideal for us right now because of its flexibility. And I can tell you that yesterday was a little bit of a stressful day because we were in the red. I think you used the term on a tweet forcefully, that the market reacted forcefully. I think that's because people assumed that there would be dilution associated with this raise.
That is exactly the concern that we saw on our chat boards yesterday. So how are we to look at the dilutive factor here?
So this is a different instrument from what we've seen before in the Canadian cannabis sector. This is not an equity raise. This is a convertible note. And so we have the option to settle this note at our discretion, at Aurora's discretion, in cash or shares. And I can tell you that it's our intention to treat this essentially as a 5% loan, as a 5% unsecured loan.
So it's not actually convertible debenture, it's convertible note. And any conversion is solely at Aurora's discretion.
It's at our discretion, and that's really important because it also gives you a signal as to our level of confidence with respect to our future cash flow. So this matures in 2024, and our projections as to our revenue growth and our free cash flow over that period give us a high degree of confidence that we'll be able to settle this substantially, if not not entirely, in cash.
So it's non-dilutive.
Non-dilutive, and that's very important. You know, I'm well aware that shareholders in cannabis companies are concerned about dilution. It's understandable. Dilution has its place, and I think that we have deployed shareholder capital in a very intelligent way over the last 3 years since we began commercial operations. We've acquired an unmatched, I think, array of assets and capabilities with the objective of being the most integrated cannabis company in the world, and also establishing the largest global footprint in the world, and we've done that. We're now operating in 23 countries. So we have, I think, deployed shareholder capital in a very prudent and intelligent way with a very specific strategy. That said, we started with our guidance last week indicating that we are now shifting gears. We're shifting gears away from the era of really aggressive M&A. We're slowing that down. We've decided to let people know that we're going to be very selective now in terms of our future M&A, with a focus on opening up international markets. And at the same time, shifting gears to focus on very disciplined execution, on cost management, and that stake that we put in the ground through our guidance last week with respect to achieving profitability in the middle of this year. So what we said specifically is that we believe that we will be EBITDA positive in the second calendar quarter.
Fantastic. So then can we talk a bit about who are the investors in the debenture?
So let's start with our bankers, because I really want to give them a shout out. Our bankers were BMO, Bank of Montreal, and Cowen in the US, and they have been a dream to work with. Really, really smart people, really dedicated. They work at our pace, so no problem working 7 days a week, and they've helped us come up with a very, very good security. Now the investors themselves, there are actually dozens of them, and it's primarily large US institutions, some from Europe as well, some from Canada, and that's important as well because these are long-term shareholders. These are not day traders, and one of the things that you and I have talked about before is that it's been my objective for 2019 to, if we can, reduce the volatility in our stock by bringing in more institutional shareholders. In the cannabis sector, it's very clear that the overwhelming majority of shareholders, of investors, are retail. And one of the things that we can do to help mature this industry faster is to bring more institutions into the story. And that's what we're doing right now.
Okay. Can you tell me what measures, what covenants are in the...
No financial covenants.
None whatsoever. So what protects the lenders? That's what I want to know. How are they protected from the downside?
This is unsecured debt, essentially, the way we're looking at it. Yeah, and so it's a vote of confidence, I think, in our business strategy and our plan. And the story that we told them, and a lot of institutions, I should emphasize, our CEO, Terry Booth, our CFO, Glenn Ibbett, our chairman, Michael Singer, and I have been on the road a lot, and we've met with well over 100 institutions in just the last couple of months. And the story that we've been telling them is of a global cannabis leader. It's about the position that we have on a global basis, about our capabilities in terms of production today and the forecast as to where we're going to be. It's about the fact that there are only 2 companies in this sector that are anticipated to have over 500,000 kilograms of production capacity by next year, by 2020, and that's us and Canopy. And then also about what differentiates us in terms of our production style, our Sky Class facilities, the efficiency there, the application of technology, the automation, the robotics, all of that stuff that sets us apart and that has allowed us to be the fastest growing cannabis company in the world since we began commercial operations 3 years ago. That's the story that we told. And touch wood, it's looking very good. The response has been excellent thus far. The security was heavily oversubscribed.
Interesting that, though, I mean, I want to go back to the fact that it's US dollars. Are we to read into that maybe some of this cash is earmarked for some kind of acquisition operation in the United States?
I'm going to choose my words carefully because I don't want to signal anything here. When we have something to disclose, we'll disclose it properly. But it's not unfair to assume, as we have stated in the past, that we are interested in the U.S. market in a number of ways. So since the Farm Bill passed, there are now opportunities for CBD, hemp-derived CBD, and the hemp business itself, in which we are heavily invested through HempCo, through AgriPro in the EU, and through ICC in Latin America. And we're also involved in the U.S. market through our spin-off, Australis Capital, which is assembling this delightful, very valuable suite of assets in the U.S., and for which we have a back-in right to the tune of 40% if and when cannabis becomes federally legal in the U.S. So it's not unfair to assume that we're focusing very hard on what we want to do when we can without disturbing our relationship with the TSX and the NYSE in the U.S.
So then, can I safely assume that this cash isn't really targeting anything specific right now? It's more or less just a topping up of the war chest?
We need to maintain our agility, and so we've been more aggressive, I would say, than any other cannabis company in terms of opening up new markets, striving to be first or second into these new markets. Recent ones include, Poland and Czech Republic and Luxembourg and Italy and so on. There will be more of that, and not just in Europe, but in other jurisdictions as well. So on a go-forward basis, we need to make sure that we are properly capitalized to be able to move with agility, to do the kinds of things that have benefited us thus far on an international basis, with an eye on that massive economic opportunity. And I'll say it again, there's been a lot of attention on the Canadian consumer system, on consumer legalization in Canada. And it makes sense because it is a big development. It is positive public policy. It's smart public policy. It's also a good economic opportunity to the tune of perhaps $10 billion per year. And it's also a great source of cash flow for companies like Aurora, who are doing well in the Canadian consumer system. But our major focus over the next several years is on the international medical systems. We see that as the largest economic opportunity, and that's why we've got to have this additional war chest to make sure that we can bridge through to profitability, which once again is coming very, very fast. It's headed this way.
Right, you bet. The presence of so many tier one institutional investors in this financing in the United States, does that signal that the conflict of interest that has been sort of foisted upon the perception of investors globally, that the United States is not going to be a participant in the Canadian cannabis market and vice versa, is that sort of perception being diminished by the fact that these big institutions are in?
This is a coming of age for cannabis companies, and in particular the leading Canadian public cannabis companies. I've been saying for some time that institutions in the US, in Europe, other parts of the world have been signaling their interest. I would say that what we're seeing right now is that being put into action. They realize that this is a significant new opportunity, that a brand new industry on a global basis is being born. These institutions do not come into your story because they're looking to day trade. They come in as long-term investors because they believe that there is a long-term opportunity here. So that's what we're seeing happening right now. It's very exciting. We'll look back at this moment, I think, as a critical inflection point in this industry.
Matt Bottomley, the Canaccord Cannabis analyst, was here with us this week, and he suggested that Aurora was very likely one of the most likely companies that was going to be the next beneficiary of a relationship on the scale of a super conglomerate, multi-billion-dollar pubco like Novartis, like Constellation Brands. Is it safe to ask you if any of these discussions are underway, or have they proceeded?
As long as I answer it carefully, it's safe to ask, bearing in mind that I really like not being incarcerated.
Right.
So we are not going to be making any news today, but I will give some color. One of the things that we spoke about with the institutions in the US as we were marketing and telling the story of Aurora is that it's fair to assume that the companies from the US and Europe and elsewhere, the leading companies in major mature industries that have been speaking with other companies have been speaking to us, and I would say in most cases probably first. Now, that said, we are keeping our powder dry, and I'll tell you why. We have received, I think, really wise counsel from the US that we should be patient, not rush into partnerships, because as much as some of these big companies want to partner with us today, they will want to partner with us more tomorrow. And what changes over time is that we will be a much more valuable company. Aurora will be a much more valuable company in 12 months than we are today, in 6 months even. In other words, the value of our company is rising based on our fundamentals, based on the revenues that we're generating, based on our growth. I mean, I think we're projecting, based on the guidance we gave last week, about 68% growth quarter over quarter in our December 31st quarter. And that comes after an average of 44% quarter over quarter growth for the last 6 quarters. So when you're growing that fast, you don't want to sell yourself cheap. And therefore, it's worth considering whether you want to hold off, be smart, understand that you're going to be a player, but whether you enter into a partnership today or at some point in the future is a major consideration if you know that you're going to be more valuable in the future. I hope I'm not being too cryptic here, but it's an important consideration here, because my feeling and the feeling of our CEO Terry Booth and our management team is we measure twice and we cut once. I have zero doubt that we're going to end up with partnerships with mature industries. It's a question of when, and it's a question of on whose terms.
Well, fantastic update, Cam. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you soon.
It's always good to see you.
And we're back. So, what do you think, people? Dilutive?
What's the
not
verdict?
Dilutive?
What's the verdict?
What's the verdict? Well, the verdict is, as Cam said, it's the conversion is at the sole discretion of Aurora in 2024.
Right.
Operating in 23 countries. Do you think they're going to be able to pay back a one-time payment of $250 million out of cash flow in 2024? I have to say, yes, he's a client.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm biased, and I'm not to be trusted.
Right.
But even outside of that, I think the answer is yes.
Right. Okay.
So
well,
now I wonder, under what conditions could it be dilutive?
Only if they didn't want to pay the money back for some reason, then they would be forced to convert. Because at the end of the period, they would convert, right?
Well, so if it's up to Aurora, now the only time it's not going to be up to Aurora, I think, with what you're getting at, Ed, is if they can't pay the $250, then it has to convert. But that's the security for the note holder, is that it converts to a stock.
Look, I think it sounds like a pretty good deal for Aurora.
Yeah.
It sounds that way.
I mean, from a dilution standpoint, that's what all the Aurora shareholders are a little bit dilution fatigued. Every time they go shopping, it costs them more participation in the market.
5.25% U.S. money for 5 years.
What do you think they're going to do
I
with
think
that?
that it should add value. I think that financing, from what I can see, based on what we've...
From your 20 years of expertise in the business. 40 years of expertise. Well, that's right. I'm 20 years in the business.
I'm 40.
I'm 50.
I'm 50.
55.
I'm about 80 years old. Yeah, so I think it's a good deal. I think it's a good deal. So, and what's the stock doing today?
Well, let's see. How did...
I think it's down a little bit.
How did ACB finish at 8? It was down 17 cents, finished at 8.53. Or down 1.95%.
What's the?
But you know what? That's a gift. And you know what? This price, in my estimation, is a discounted. Let me just say this: I'm going to buy some Aurora at the open. I'm going to put it in order. I'm going to put it in order because I think when the market realizes the market has discounted Aurora by $2 in the last 24 hours because it assumed that the financing was going to be diluted.
Right.
Now, clearly that's not the case, at least not nearly a high risk of dilution as a straight equity thing, and it's 5 years out. And so are they going to turn that $250 million into a multiple thereof on the balance sheet within 5 years that actually makes the $14 million a year it costs them to own that to rent that $250 million?
No. 5.25%, James. If someone said to you right now, I'm going to give you $250 million US, but I want 5.25%, you'd jump at it.
No, I wouldn't. I will never borrow money. That's a policy of mine that...
So you're totally against the slave-master relationship.
Well, And I'm not in the business of building billion-dollar cannabis companies, okay? I'm in the business of having a little good time with my good friend Ed Milewski, making a little money here and there.
Polsky Ogorky.
Polsky Ogorky and Howdy Doody here are going to rule the day. And that's all we're about, Ed. We're simple people.
Howdy Doody.
Howdy Doody. You know, that's what kids called me in school, and I hated it. Because when I was much younger, I had freckles like you wouldn't believe and red curly hair. And people called me Howdy Doody.
You had red curly hair?
I had red curly hair.
How'd you get rid of it?
Well, don't I still have red curly hair?
No, you don't.
It's just a little less red.
It's strawberry
back
blonde.
then it was bright red, and I had pale skin and freckles everywhere, and I looked like Howdy Doody. And kids wrote Howdy Doody on my locker. It was very traumatic for me.
You know what? I can't. If there's one thing I abhor.
Abhor? Gaga Jabor?
No, I abhor bullying.
I abhor bullying.
You know, I just think that's...
I hate a bully too.
I don't like... I hate bullshit.
Bullies.
You know what?
Bullies suck.
Life is tough enough.
I know.
Why do you need jackasses? But they got their own problems, right? They go to home and get beaten probably. Anyway,
good point.
I don't want to...
Last week we had a segment called the Top 5 Buds, and this week Adamo and Sean are back again with the Top 5 Strains of the Week.
Sean and Adamo here with our next installment of...
Wow! Oh, here we go!
This is where we break down our top 5 strains of the week, giving you the information you need to know before smoking them so you don't end up like this guy.
Wait, why'd you cut to me?
What do you mean?
Number 5.
Tangerine Dream, not to be confused with this 60s German electronic band.
Just feel it all over your body.
You roll the shoulders though.
Just feel it all over your body.
This is a sativa-dominant hybrid that will hit you with a bold citrusy flavor and a hint of sweetness. With a THC level ranging from 19 to 25%, this strain offers up a well-balanced cerebral high that can lead to high energy and productivity. But if taken in a high dosage, you'll end up on your ass. Medically, Tangerine Dream has been used to treat mood disorders, being a source of relief for stress and anxiety, as well as muscular pain relief.
Number 4.
You want a good strain for pain, brother? ACDC is a sativa-dominant strain known for its high CBD content, differentiating itself from most strains with its THC to CBD ratio of 1 to 20. With its scarce amount of THC, it'll have little to no intoxicating effects. But gear down, big rigs. Don't count this bud out yet. With CBD contents reaching 19%, this strain has been turned to for pain management, anxiety, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, and even the negative effects of chemotherapy. Wow, wah-wee-wah!
Number 3.
Girl Scout cookies, or just GSC, packs a heavy-hitting THC punch, getting as high as 28% THC while only 1% CBD. It's been said that GSC is the perfect after-dinner treat. With its sweet, earthy aromas and its ultra-powered high, this strain will leave you feeling creative, but the majority of the time, too high to really get anything done. So if you have kids, this is the perfect strain to help you neglect them.
And I can attest to that, because I have a toddler, and my wife says she's alive and doing well.
Oh, nice. So that's important.
Number 2.
Other than the risk of sounding like an old perverted man when buying this strain.
Wait a second, why are you cutting to me when you said that?
Said what? Old pervert?
You did it again!
No, all I'm saying is, Sean, is that it sounds like an old pervert made up the strain name.
Oh.
The Dirty Girl strain is a sativa that combines a tropical aroma and a complex flavor profile, providing you with a long-lasting cerebral high. With its THC level ranging from 17 to 28%, Dirty Girl can be used as an energy boost, and people have even used it as an alternative to caffeine.
Number 1.
This next bud is called, For the life of me, I can't remember what the hell it's called. Anyway, it's typically a sativa-dominant cannabis strain, providing consumers with an uplifting, creative, and euphoric amnesia. Amnesia, that's what it's called.
Wow, what a great name. It's like we scripted it.
Living up to its name, this strain can cause short-term memory loss and has also been known to cause paranoia and dizziness. This is not a strain for beginners to fool around with. Amnesia can also be used to treat mood disorders, as it can produce an increased energy sativa-style high, which is excellent for lifting one's mood.
And those were the top 5 strains of the week.
And here's your tip of the week. You know what? It doesn't take much to be kind to others, does it? A smile, holding the door open for somebody.
It's a great point, Sean. And what I think he's trying to say is, don't be an asshole.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, here we go, here we go.
That's good. That's
Those
good.
guys are good.
Yeah, those guys are good.
I don't know. I don't want to smoke any of that amnesia. I've got short-term memory loss as it is. For over the long term, I've experienced short-term memory loss.
What'd you
and over
say?
the short term, I experienced long-term memory loss.
What'd you say?
I can't remember.
Okay, so here we are at the end of the show. I guess we've got a couple of...
It's not the end of the show, Ed. You know why? Because we've got the bloopers coming up. The bloopers is the most funny thing that ever happens everywhere.
What about Monday? We got a couple of strangers on the set.
Oh, wow. That's what my dog does when she wants to go out. I almost think she's saying, oh, anyways, coming up next week, Alan Brockstein's going to be here from 420 Investor. Of course, he's fresh off the podium down at the Benzinga Cannabis Conference in Miami.
Right.
Warren Bravo is going to be here from Green Relief. If you don't know what Green Relief is, they're the Ontario grower who grows aquaponically. Aquaponically meaning they grow with fish. So the workers get fish sandwiches for lunch, and the weed is organic. Gah! I love these guys so much that I get all of my, get my CBD oil from Green Relief, and I also am a shareholder of the company that is soon going to go public. Charles Turk is going to be here from the 9 Point Alternative Health Fund, and Charles is a uniformly reliable source of smart perspectives that are in fact helpful. And he's a pretty good investor.
Okay.
Good stock picker too.
Okay.
The new CEO of Evenco is going to be here. And Steve Meisner, the legend, the man himself, is going to be...
Former fund manager.
The host, along with Brandon Colwell from Follow the Money on Monday, because Edward is in some state of disrepair, and I am in some state of undress. So we're not going to be presentable on Monday. Ed is back on Tuesday. I'm back on Wednesday. It's all going to be fun and games and lots more.
You will be here on Tuesday?
No, I'm not going to be here on Tuesday.
Who's going to be with me on Tuesday?
I couldn't answer that, but I know they've got somebody in mind. I think it's Ben.
Ben?
Could be. Maybe you can pick somebody that you...
You know, I'm seeing...
you're seeing somebody, aren't you? Anyways, come back and join us next week. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and for now, watch our bloopers because they are funny. Funny.
Why would we wear pants? Nobody sees from here down, you know?
I'm not wearing pants right
Me
now.
either, Mike.
The big volume on AMX today.
We're a little bit jittery. You know, the market's going crazy. The Dow's up. The S&P's up. The stocks are down. What the hell's going on?
Probably want a cracker. Give me a goddamn cracker.
I think you're spending too much time looking at your belly button, Edward.
Let's not get too exuberant here.
That word farce has the word arse in it.
And it's also the first 3 letters of the word fart.
Difficult to see the future it is.
You know what? If I didn't know it, I'd say that little rascal was underneath the table.
Yeah.
You know, you made whoopee. Like, you know, you did know that.
Whoopee?
Yeah.
People still say that?
I got bad breath and I got bad posture.
Ooh, that's a bad combination.
Ooh. Hey, I'm going to give you a little
fist pump.
Fist pump.
We don't even know what we're saying to each other anymore.
And when you buy a good bottle of wine, you're tempting me.
Oh, I see. So it's your own inability to control your urges.
If you'd have bought shit wine, I probably still would have drank.
Why would I be buying shit? There we go.
Can we say that you have the ability to smell a bottom?
No. Smell a bottom. Oh, boy. Boy, oh, boy. I think we better stop talking about Antilles now. We're breaking the audience joke here. I got some lubricant.
How's James?
Look at that smell. He can smell a bottom a mile away.
I'd like to be under the table, but no. Oh, Jesus. You know that dinging is actually coming from your head. The phone goes green, I pink it up and say yellow. Anyway.
Whoa.